Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome to weekend 2 of the Battlefield 6 beta. This update didn't really do a whole lot to the game. I mean, we have a few more challenges, we have a search feature, which is awesome when it's working properly, and then of course we have a new map and a new game mode. In fact, we're playing that game mode and that map right here in this video, and to be honest, so far, reactions from the community this weekend have been mixed. It's definitely not the same reception that we saw when they first dropped the beta last weekend, and I think that's really interesting, and that's something I want to explore here in this video today. It also seems like Battlefield is really going all in when it comes to marketing against Call of Duty, so we have a lot to cover here. Sit back and relax, and let's go ahead and just jump right on into it. So first things first, the new map and the new game mode. Rush, of course, is one of the most iconic game types in Battlefield history. It's about as old school as it gets, and a lot of people were excited for it, myself included. I mean, you look at Breakthrough, it's a very similar game mode where instead of having MCOM stations, we essentially just have flags to capture, but the game mode was insanely weighed towards the defensive side. If you played Weekend 1 Breakthrough, especially in the party, which meant you almost always had to play on attack, you know exactly what I mean. So when Rush was added, I was excited, but then the reality started to kick in. The Rush that we find here in Battlefield 6 is not like the Rush that we saw back in games like Battlefield 3 or Battlefield 4. The rules are the same, but it's on a much smaller scale. Back then, Rush sizes used to depend on the map itself, and sometimes it was 12v12, sometimes 16-on-16, 20-on-20, or even 32-on-32. These were things that could be in the base game, but they especially worked well when we had a server browser, which we don't have here in Battlefield 6. Well, with this new version of Rush, we are locked into 12v12, and the maps are all incredibly small, which is by design. Modes like Rush kind of like cut a big portion of the map off so that the fighting is very condensed, but for a lot of players, myself included, it lacks that classic Battlefield feel. It honestly feels a bit more like Call of Duty in terms of pacing, and it seems like all of that has been very intentionally designed by the folks over at Battlefield Studios. Even when you play a game mode like Conquest, the maps have a severe lack of size and depth, you know what I mean, and vehicles are barely a factor whatsoever. It's all theory and speculation right now, but even Bob Network UK mentioned on Twitter that the reason why they chose the smallest maps in the game to showcase during the beta is because of 3 simple letters, man. They want to bring in as many Call of Duty fans as possible and ease them into the Battlefield series. Taking players who have never touched the franchise whatsoever and then just throwing them into Operation Firestorm, for example, might be a bit overwhelming for some of them, right? So it seems like the idea is to sort of start them off slow with the close quarters maps in the game and then ease everybody into the larger stuff that's going to come with the full launch, but that has not come without its own set of challenges and a bit of backlash. A lot of people just want to play Battlefield, you know, the big maps, the vehicles, the epic team fights, and while the beta has offered a lot of those really cool and memorable moments so far, everything still feels very small compared to what fans expected. There's still going to be 5 other maps and of course tons of other game modes at launch, but when fans saw that Rush was locked to 12v12 and vehicles weren't really a factor and just everything felt very small and condensed and chaotic and everything, it was a bit of a system shock to say the least. Next up here, let's talk about the netcode and hit detection in general, because I was beginning to lose my mind playing here within weekend 2. So I put like 35 hours into weekend 1. My stats weren't the best or anything, but above all else, I want to play the objective. I want to win. That's how I do things. And so far here in weekend 2, I put about 15 more hours into the game. And apparently in that time, I have lost any form of gun skill I have gathered over the course of the past 18 years. Like every gunfight in this game right now feels so random anymore, you know? Like I understand there is bloom in the game. That's an entirely separate topic, but during weekend 1, things felt fine, and what we see here in the game right now almost feels random, and I don't want to sound too dramatic here, but I feel like I've lost all confidence in myself when I shoot at somebody. Like gunfights almost feel like a coin flip here in weekend 2, and thankfully I'm not the only person experiencing this, because if it was just a me thing, I might just be straight up cooked, but if you do a quick search on social media or Reddit, it overwhelmingly seems like the netcode has been changed here for weekend 2, which does make sense given that it's a beta and they're trying different things out and whatnot, but where they changed has objectively made the game feel worse, and they definitely need to go back to the drawing board. Here we can see from the Tactical Brit, who is a much better Battlefield player than me, and also somebody who's just making really good Battlefield videos right now. Loving BF6 so far, but hit registration and desync noticeably feels worse. Feel like I'm a good candidate to say it's fucked because I get 1 to 2 ping. How has it felt for you guys? I'm wondering if it's more to do with frame timings than networking. He then goes on to say that servers are definitely 60 tick, and last weekend offered one of the most responsive responsive FPS experiences I've had in years. Feels like something is borked, but pretty exciting to have good server quality in the AAA space, Activision. And I could not agree with Britt more on this one. Something has changed, and it's not something like skill-based damage or skill-based matchmaking, though we do have some interesting information when it comes to that here in a bit. It's something to do with the servers, or desync, or netcode, or frame timings, or something. Like, the core game is still amazing, and knowing how great Weekend 1 was, I fully expect this to be something that Battlefield Studios can fix, but right now, here in Weekend 2, it feels really off, and that especially sucks knowing that this is going to be our final experience for Battlefield 6 for 2 months before the full launch of the game, and then when we combine all of that with things like Rush not feeling like Rush used to, and the maps being pretty small, it's causing quite a bit of controversy within the community and within online discourse. Next up here, let's talk about skill-based matchmaking as well as the community in general. Let me say it right now, skill-based matchmaking does not exist in this game. If anything, it's a bit jarring how bad so many people are. Like, it's freaking crazy. Like, you always hear online, there's like these Battlefield elitists, you know, they always say the Battlefield's like the better game, it's the superior game, like everything's better about Battlefield, and if you play Call of Duty, you're terrible at FPS games and whatnot. Yet when we come to Battlefield 6 here, medics aren't reviving, nobody seems to play engineer whatsoever because vehicles aren't really a factor, recon players aren't using spawn beacons, and half the people in every lobby are just playing assault, which is objectively like the worst class in the game when it comes to team play because they want to run around with a shotgun and use a freaking fire launcher. I can't tell you the amount of times I just lay there surrounded by medics and teammates and nobody picks me up. I'm usually okay because I play with my friends, but I'm not joking here, guys. Last night I played 2 full conquest matches as a solo player and I was revived 1 time total in 2 games while everybody's just running around me and nobody's bothering to pick me up. I think this is likely due to the fact that there are so many new Battlefield players joining the game, along with the fact that it's a beta and people don't really take it all that seriously, but still, it's pretty frustrating to have a team-based game and a class-based game like this, and people aren't playing their classes and they're not playing as a team. The reason why I brought skill-based matchmaking up, however, is because we finally got a taste of how that system works a little bit, right? We all heard back in the day, I'm saying that like it was a long time ago, it was just a couple weeks ago, but regardless, we all heard it's not skill-based matchmaking, it's just team balancing, right? But the team balancing in some ways works a bit like skill-based matchmaking, and the numbers here are freaking insane. Maybe I'm just like a crazy outlier, but I don't think that's true. Going through my footage of the beta, when we're talking about the game modes Breakthrough and Rush, I have played Attack 50 times out of 56 matches. I can count on less than 2 hands the amount of times I've gotten to play defense in either of those game modes, and we all know defense is heavily favored, especially when you're playing Breakthrough. It's not as bad in Rush, but especially in Breakthrough, like, defense is so ridiculously favored. What seems to be happening is if you're in a good squad of your friends, you will almost always have to play on offense because your squad stats and your skill rating are being weighed by the lobby. Now, of course, we don't know exactly how things work on the back end, but some people have said that I'm just getting unlucky. So what I decided to do was do the math for you guys. So to play 56 games and only play defense 6 times, right? Let's assume for a second that lobbies are randomized after they do team balancing, meaning it's essentially just a coin flip, a 50-50 chance to play on attack or defense after they do their team balancing. For me to win that coin flip by being able to play defense only 6 times out of 56 attempts, the odds of that happening are 1 in 2,219,312,136. Now, for context here, guys, those odds are over 7 times less likely to happen than hitting the Mega Millions lottery. That is freaking insane. At some point, people just have to admit that it's not luck, it's something fundamentally built within the game itself, and to be honest, as much as I've been loving Battlefield 6 so far, having to play offense every single match gets really freaking boring, you know? You want to have some variety in the game, and I know it's a beta and it's a limited build, and we only have a couple of maps, and there's a limited number of guns, and the classes aren't fully fleshed out and everything else, but to have to play the same role, the same mode, the same everything over and over just because you're in a squad is not very fun. If the same thing happens at launch, it is going to severely cut into replay value for a lot of players because while it's not skill-based matchmaking, it's still lobby manipulation. I understand that team balancing needs to exist. I'm not arguing that whatsoever. I'm just saying they need to do a better job of it to create more varied experiences for players. I know it's a beta and they are certainly gathering their feedback, but for solo players or maybe squads of 2 that search together to basically only play on defense and then to have trios and full squads basically only play on offense seems like quite the oversight by the developers, and I'm interested to see what they plan to do about that moving forward. Next up here, let's talk about what's been announced as well as Battlefield 6 moving forward. Now, make no mistake here, guys, I still love this game, and I fully expect to be playing it all year and possibly for years to come. It's just that with weekend 2 of the beta, with absolutely no balance changes and the interesting direction they're taking with the maps and the game modes, I feel like it has fans wondering what's going on, what are they doing? But regardless of all of that, the game is still insanely popular. Over 300,000 concurrent players on Steam alone every single day. It's still blowing up like crazy, and the developers have decided to let us know a few things about their plans moving forward. Now, Charlie Intel got to do an interview with some of the developers, and here are the things that we learned. First things first, they claim they are very happy with their anti-cheat so far. There are some viral clips of like Catboys using aimbots and like other stuff like that, but nothing quite like the stuff we see in a series like Call of Duty. In roughly 60 hours, I have not seen a single hacker, and in general, it seems like the game is pretty clean and the anti-cheat is doing well. It's to be expected that some cheaters are going to slip through the cracks, but overall, it's looking pretty good. And the developers are happy about that, and they're going to continue to work on it and make it even better. Next up, the developers have confirmed that Battlefield 6 will have deep progression systems in the full game. They claim these systems are going to keep people coming back, and that's absolutely what I want to hear, because one of my favorite things about the old Battlefield games was leveling up the guns and the classes and like getting better with the classes and everything, and how long it took to level up your character. It all felt so amazing, and so if they're expanding upon that, that's incredible news. On top of that, they hear the feedback in regards to map size, and they want to reassure fans that larger maps are coming at launch, and they're claiming there's going to be a lot of variety in the game. They also claim that the UI and menus are not hard-coded, so it's something they can very easily change around, and I sure hope that's true, because going back to my initial review of the Battlefield 6 beta, I said that this is one of the worst user interfaces and menu systems that we have ever seen. Like, it almost makes the Modern Warfare 2 Hulu interface look good. Like, it's absolutely terrible here within Battlefield 6, at least when it comes to navigating on controller, which is how the vast majority of the players will be experiencing the game. Overall, that is really good news. It's really encouraging to hear the developers actually talk about this kind of stuff, and hopefully they have more stuff to announce in the coming days and weeks, because right now anyway, it seems like the beta may be getting a bit frustrating for fans because of its hit registration and its netcode, and then you have the fact that nothing changed about the build whatsoever going from weekend 1 to weekend 2, and just going through online, just like seeing the discourse kind of change over time, it seems like fans are almost turning their backs a little bit on Battlefield 6. Like, maybe not quite that far, but it's definitely not the same kind of hype that we saw last weekend, but I think that's to be expected, because think about it, man. We're out here putting 20, 30, 40, 80 hours into a freaking beta, man. We're talking like 3 or 4 maps, just like 3 or 4 game modes, very limited guns, very limited classes. This is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Battlefield 6, which is said to have over 44 weapons at launch, along with multiple perk paths for classes and everything else. Like, I think it's a testament to just how good the core game really is to have people, myself included, sinking so much time into a beta like this, and from the sounds of it, it's only going to get better, which is definitely what fans want to hear right now. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Weekend 2 of the Battlefield 6 open beta. It's definitely been met with some mixed reactions, as I suspect fatigue is setting in for a lot of players, but it's still really damn good. Like, there's still so much I want to do within the game. Like, I'm curious to try out that initiation game mode that apparently has AI bots for players up to level 15. Don't know why, but I just want to try it out, like record footage of it, right? And I've done all the challenges already. I'm already level 20. I guess I could go and max out every single gun, but I really don't want to use the TMRs. They're just really not that good whatsoever, but I definitely want to get as much footage as I can and experience as much of the game as I can before it goes away. It's gonna suck. Like, once this weekend is over, once the beta is officially gone, we're gonna have to go like 2 months before we can ever play Battlefield again. So I feel like right now, like, so many of us are just sitting here like grinding away as much as we possibly can, which might be causing some of that frustration that people are feeling. I think that one really cool thing that people forget, however, is once the beta is over, the devs are gonna have just under 2 months to take all that feedback and all that information that they learned and make adjustments to the game. The shotguns, for example, have already been nerfed, but apparently we're not playing on that build right now within the beta, but they understand shotguns are busted, they're already nerfing them, and they're taking the respawn beacon from the recon class and putting it on the assault class, which we learned about that a while ago, but still, that's a really good change among a bunch of other things. I think the biggest thing for people is how big will the maps actually be during the full launch of Battlefield 6, and how will the netcode and hit registration work within the game. Hopefully it's gonna be better. Like, weekend 1, it's like you're playing 2 different games, man. Like, weekend 1 was like perfect. It was crispy, it was wonderful, but Weekend 2 is just like, I don't know what they're doing with that. And I'm also curious, the whole idea of weapon bloom, right? Like having your bullets almost feeling randomized doesn't really feel good in a shooter game. Like I understand that Battlefield has always had some form of bloom, but how they're handling it here seems kind of weird. Like you have people complaining that the guns have no recoil whatsoever, mostly because those people don't remember how recoil was back in Battlefield 4, but the game feels like you have no recoil while weapon bloom makes your bullets do random things and go random places. I would much prefer weapons to have more recoil and tighter bloom to compensate, because it really feels bad to be tap firing towards somebody and having your bullets just dance all around them, right? And again, this is definitely something they can tune and change, and we are still in beta here, and I'm sure they're taking in tons of feedback and they're gathering all their information from the servers and the player base and social media and all that. So ultimately, as much as it sucks to say, we are just going to have to wait and see how everything plays out. But for right now, I'm going to wrap up this video here today because, believe it or not, I want to go play more Battlefield 6 with my buddies. I talk about a game that is so much fun to play with your friends and work together as a squad and everything. Like, I look forward to it every single day, and it's going to be depressing when I can't play it anymore. And despite all the frustrations that people have had with Weekend 2, myself included, it's still such a good game, and I genuinely cannot wait for the full launch. So on that note, I'm going to wrap up this video here today. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Leave your thoughts and feedback on Weekend 2 down there in the comments. Be sure to sub if you're new around here. Thank you all so much for listening, and until next time, I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.